Hey everyone, and welcome to Chef AJ Live. I'm your host, Chef AJ, and this is where I introduce you to amazing people like you who are doing great things in the world that I think you should know about. My guest today is Jennifer Helene. She created the culinary program at the Hippocrates Institute. She's been on MasterChef, and today she is going to be making a creamy asparagus soup and a sprout salad. Please welcome her to the show. It's so nice to meet you.
Oh, it's so great to be here. Thank you to all of you who are here listening and to you, Chef AJ, for creating this beautiful community.
Well, thank you so much. As I mentioned before the show to you, not to the audience because they weren't there yet, is I subscribed to the Hippocrates newsletter, and I got this email with a video in it of somebody making walnut tacos. I'm like, wow, she's gorgeous. She knows how to cook, and I have to have this lady on the show. And I had no idea you were on MasterChef, and I know you do a lot of things as a health coach to health coaches. So take it away, Jennifer. Tell us your story.
Oh, well, food is such an intimate thing. It's so deep and emotional. I grew up with my nickname being Fatso and was attending my first Weight Watchers meeting at age 5. My mom, constantly was gaining and losing hundreds of pounds, and we were in and out of Overeaters Anonymous meetings my entire childhood. So I learned really early on that food could heal and food could harm, and that it was a struggle. And it was always a focus. I mean, literally at breakfast, we're planning what we're having for dinner. It's like our family revolves around food. And they thought I had leukemia at age 7. So I was literally in the hospital trying to figure out what was going on with my white blood cell count. I was in a wheelchair, didn't have leukemia, long story short, laid up really in a wheelchair for 3 years from age 7 to 10. And that led me to really value health in a way that I think most people don't, especially when you've got it, and so at a very young age, I woke up to the reality of like, my goodness, health is important. So to everyone's surprise, I became a model, a plus size model, and traveled the world. And I had terrible skin problems, irritable bowel syndrome, all kinds of issues as a result of the immense amount of medications I had been taking my entire childhood. And all my research had to go outside of the Western medical system after it had finally failed me. And I learned about the natural law, the law of plants, the law of natural medicine. And it completely has helped me to restore my health. And today I can say that I no longer have problems with acne. I no longer have problems with my intestines. And I have what I would call food freedom. And there's something that happened when I went plant-based and when I took it to the next level and learned about the Hippocrates system, where the cravings and the level of satisfaction reached a depth where I felt this deep innate sense of freedom, that it was no longer holding and controlling me, but that I had the ability to navigate inside of it. It's not going away. The food compulsion and the overeating, all that stuff, it's not going away, but I was able to shift my relationship with it. And I realized 3 things. Now, it's been 30 years. I have a bachelor's and a master's degree in nutrition. I write programs for students. I have thousands of students in over 60 countries. I create culinary programs. I was on MasterChef. I write cookbooks in my free time. I'm just like totally into it, right? But I realized that nutrition is a really important thing, essential, but it's not the whole picture. And that, exercise and movement is super important, but you can't outrun your fork either. So you've got to have both the nutrition and the exercise. It's key, not only for the body and the weight loss, but for your entire life and the balance of your life and the freedom in your soul. And then I realized that, you can exercise and you can eat right, but if your mind isn't right and your heart isn't right, you're not happy, you're feeling guilty when you're eating kale all day, it's just not going to work. So the 3 pillars of the secret formula to food freedom is really food, fitness, and mindset. And one without the other is not really going to get you to the freedom that we're all seeking on some level.
I love that, food freedom. That's how I feel too. I had no idea you were heavy as a child.
Yes. And I know what the ostracism is like. And I know what the like feeling incapable, feel like, just the stigma of it. And also, my mother's emotional burden around it. I mean, she died at 59 with severe obesity as one of her causes of death. And that is sobering. And I am on a mission, like you, Chef AJ, to let people know that you can have your cake and eat it too. And you don't have to sacrifice flavor for health. And you get to have it all, but you have to learn. You got to learn the skills. I can't leave my house without being prepared. You've got to prepare, you got to know where to go for what, and you got to change it up and always stay inspired and creative. Like here, I've got this medicinal mushroom, raw cacao, cocktail here that I'm drinking. It's hot, it's warm, it's lovely. It's like a treat. And I feel it's like abundant. And that is what this healthy lifestyle journey should feel like. It should feel abundant. It should feel luxurious. It should feel satisfying so that it sticks, because anyone can do anything for a month or two. But I'm interested in it's sustaining a lifetime. What are the components that make it sustainable for a lifetime?
Yeah, I love that. At what age did you first find out about a plant-based diet and become plant-based yourself?
This is actually a funny story. Meat always made me feel sick. And I remember I came home from school one day. I said, Mom, I don't want to eat meat anymore. And she's like, what do you mean? I said, I don't like the way it makes me feel. And she was a big meat eater. And she said, okay, but you have to eat crabs. And I said, Mom, I don't want to eat crabs, because our family, is the Phillips family. There's a very big crab business on the East Coast. And she said, sorry, we have to disown you if you don't eat crabs. I said, no, Mom, I'm not eating crabs. I found my way around that one. But really, I was really young. I was like 9. And I just didn't want to do it anymore. So vegetarianism from age 9 until I got married at age 24. And then I actually got hospitalized when I reintroduced meat into my diet at age 24 with a severe kidney infection. So I did have a little bit of meat on and off during some years of my marriage. And then I went full vegan. I got diagnosed with pre-diabetes. I was pre-diabetic, which was shocking to me because I thought I was the healthiest person on the planet. Oh, how we can cause ourselves damage and harm, even being healthy. Anyway, so that was a learning process. My doctor told me to try the keto and the paleo diet, and I erroneously listened to him. And I got so disgusted with the way my body smelled and felt, and the diabetes wasn't going away. And then I just decided I'm going all in. I'm going all in with vegan, and I'm never turning back because it just doesn't feel right in my body, and it never has.
That's fantastic. Is that when the weight started to come off? Is when you adopted this way of eating?
No, it wasn't actually. It was when I dealt with some of the underlying issues, because I've always been a foodie. I'm still a foodie. But after the birth of my daughter 16 years ago was really when the weight started to come off. And it was when I dealt with some of the underlying issues in my gut. And when I got to some of the underlying issues in me emotionally, that the weight started to peel off. But it definitely helped my weight to become more manageable when I went plant-based, for sure. But I did like most people, getting healthier. I did, instead of white flour, I did wheat flour. Instead of white sugar, I did, brown sugar. And it was been a journey as the dairy went away. That was a huge change for my skin and my beauty and my colon. When the gluten went away, I had a huge transformation in my colon. When I lived in Switzerland for 10 years, Chef AJ. So can you imagine, giving up dairy when you live in Switzerland? I mean, it was really, it was really challenging. Because such a part of the culture there. But yeah, so it layer by layer, just like an onion, peeling away those layers. And then I finally, started to see the vitality shine through. And it's been a journey for me to get to that vitality. And
When did you get involved with Hippocrates? Because maybe tell people, I know what Hippocrates is because I've heard Brian Clements speak, but maybe you can tell people what Hippocrates is, what they do, and how you got involved working with them.
Yes, well, that's I got divorced about 11 years ago, and I decided to, as a divorce gift to myself, I was going to go to Hippocrates for 3 weeks, because when I was in my master's degree program for my nutritional degree, I decided that I needed to learn more about this raw foods thing. Gabriel Cousins was speaking about it in some of my self-study. And I thought, well, this is kind of intimidating. I've never heard about anything like this before. I have read all of these books. And so I decided I wanted to go to Hippocrates. I took my daughter, who was about 4 at the time. And I spent a few weeks there and I was totally blown away by the miracles I witnessed. People whose diseases had completely reversed. I met people who had reversed their cancer, people who had reversed their diabetes, people who had reversed their cardiovascular disease, people who had lost all this weight. And I was just blown away. I could see literally the age just melting off of their faces. I could see their bodies transforming. I could see their energy and their minds transforming. And I couldn't believe it was in front of my eyes. And I went back a few years later and more of that happened. You know, I followed them. And then I went to Brian. I said, Brian, how many people can come here? Brian's the co-director. How many people come here every year? And he said, well, a few thousand. And I said, well, I think a few million people you need to know about this place because you have the secret sauce to what is reversing disease and restoring health. And I suggested that he put an online program together. So he asked me if I could do it. And I said, I'll try. And that was the beginning of a journey over the last 6 or 7 years now. We have over 1,000 students in 63 countries enrolled in our program. And, you know, they say they come for the food, but what they end up leaving with is a lot more. It's a complete energetic and life overhaul because, again, it's not only about the food, it's about the psychoneuroimmunology, right? The mindset. It's about the exercise immunology. It's about the exercise and it's about your whole body and your whole life and everything that comes to it. But nourishment, nutrition is so key.
Is Hippocrates 100% raw food? Is that what they serve or do they do juice? What? Because I've
No,
never the program.
they have cooked food on Friday nights and sometimes, oh yeah, on Sunday nights. So they do have cooked food a bit. I mean, the ideal, if you're not in a disease process, Hippocrates says, you know, you want to go 80-20, 80% raw by weight, 20% cooked. So that is the official, you know, bottom line on that. But yes, it's mostly raw foods, but it's not just raw foods. It's sprouted foods. And this is where the vitality that I was speaking about comes from, is this sprouted, germinated foods, because they contain 30 to 50% more vitality, more nutrients, more phytonutrients than the mature plants. So if you're eating a broccoli sprout, which I can show you, I have some, they will contain, you know, that much more vitality. That's why they're so positive and healthy, as the research shows, for, you know, helping to prevent cancer from growing in your body. The sprouts specifically. So yeah, it's a sprouted food. So you can be really unhealthy as a plant-based eater. You can eat junk food all day long.
Tell me about it. I was almost 200 pounds and been vegan for 26 years. And I had the beginning of colon cancer. So eating plants is not necessarily the ticket to optimal health.
No, and it's our responsibility, all of us listening today and watching, to really find out what those healthy pillars are so that you can stay healthy and stay plant-based. And it's not just about you, it's about the planet, because you are part of it. There's no separation whatsoever. So it's really important that we get educated. I know for me, I've had to get educated, and I never stop. I mean, it just continues. I learned about Ayurveda and macrobiotics, and I learned about all these things, and I'm constantly refining, because what's right for me today is totally different than what was right for me 10 years ago. So I'm changing as I age, and my needs are changing.
Nice. So tell us about MasterChef. When were you on and what did you make on the show? And can we see it anywhere?
Sure. I mean, I was on season 3, Fox TV, MasterChef, and it was a surprise. It was actually, I'd been an expatriate for 10 years. As I said, I lived in Switzerland. I came back and I was with some girlfriends in La Jolla, and they said, you know, you should really check out this show. And I said, well, it was like a challenge. And I said, okay. So I went to audition. I mean, there were thousands of people there. And I thought, what do I get myself into? What am I doing here? You know? And anyway, I brought my raw chocolate. I brought my raw chocolate with, you know, superfoods like goji berries and raw cacao and all that stuff. And they were interested. So they called me back. And then they kept calling me back. And then, you know, I wanted to take a stand for plant-based superfoods, you know, plant-based vital eating. That was difficult because, you know, their sponsor that year was, you know, Walmart with their steaks. So it was pretty intense. But not only that, I also had my daughter, which was really hard to be away from her, because they kind of, you get, I loved it because I get to talk food 16 hours a day with other foodies. So that was really fun. And we got to have cooking classes, which was really fun, but it was really intense as well. I mean, you're cooped up, you know, they blindfold you, they take you places, they change your hotel in the middle of the night. I mean, it was intense. It was really intense. But yeah, you can see it, season 3, Helene, you know, MasterChef. I you know, it was a challenge. You know, I'm much more comfortable in my own kitchen with my own stuff. But it was really fun, and I learned a lot. It's a big production.
Yeah, I was on Cupcake Wars, and I'll tell you, those competition shows are so stressful, if you ask me. Oh, did you freeze, Jennifer? Please come back. Hello, hello. Guys, oh, there you go. You froze for just a brief moment. I had mentioned that I did Cupcake Wars, and that reality television or competition television is very stressful, in my opinion.
It is stressful, but I really think it's important that we all feel empowered as home chefs to create delicious, magnificent food. And that is what I would love to see more and more people doing, finding ways to make fabulous food in their lives, because we can do it. You can do it. Because there's nothing like the love you put into your food and a homemade meal. No restaurant is going to give you the quality of fat that you can put in your kitchen. No restaurant is going to make you salt-free food. No restaurant is going to have really organic food. I mean, so the only way you can ensure your health insurance and your disease prevention and your vitality and longevity is by making food yourself in your own kitchen. We have to take full responsibility. And there are a few spots where I can go to get food I can trust. But honestly, I mean, it's like the wild, wild world west out there. I mean, it's the world of chemicals, herbicides, fungicides, pesticides, genetically modified oils, salt. It's not sugar. I mean, it's not the world that is going to bring me the vitality and alignment with nature in my body that I know is necessary.
Right. I mean, I'm not trying to put restaurants out of business, but for me, and even if you're not, the food is so much better at home. It's more plentiful, it's more affordable, and you get more of it. Restaurants give such tiny portions. For me.
Listen, I would love for restaurants to take also ownership of the food chain and to take responsibility for the kinds of food they're buying. It's always about consumer demand. So if consumers are demanding organic food, more restaurateurs will be required to put organic food in their restaurants. So I implore restaurant owners to use their intelligence to avoid future misery and to impact their bottom line in such a way that's going to benefit humanity and health. I mean, health-centered restaurants are doing very well. Not everywhere in the world, but I would love to see more restaurant owners to have the courage to take the leap and have healthier options on their menus, vegan options. I'm seeing it more and more, so it's pretty exciting.
Absolutely. Yvonne, who's watching live, says the drink that you're drinking looks and sounds delicious. Can you share the recipe for it?
Of course. They're fermented medicinal mushrooms like reishi and chaga, maitake and shiitake mushrooms, lion's mane, cordyceps. And then I mix that with some raw cacao and some raw vanilla. And I put a little bit of stevia, or you could opt out for the stevia if you don't like stevia. It's delicious without it. The vanilla is aromatic enough. And I add a little bit of hot water. Well, that's not true. I add 3/4 of a cup of hot water and just a splash of some homemade almond milk. And it is like such a like grounding, nourishing, beverage it just feels like such a special treat. Remember you had hot cocoa when you were like, came in from the cold. It's not cold today, but it's just very, very nurturing.
Nice.
Yeah.
Asking, when did you decide to get a BA and MA in nutrition, and which program can you suggest to somebody who's interested?
Gosh, there are so many good ones these days. I mean, for me, the most important thing is food is medicine. That's my interest. I'm interested in how food heals. So I would, I don't know, I'm not in the know of all the current programs out there. There are a couple of really good ones, though, that I've heard about from some of my students. And, I encourage people to reach out to me so I can look in my archives and give you the actual recipe for this, and also the information about schools. You can find my contact information on my website, and I answer questions all the time. And I also have a 7-day free lifestyle plan. You can sign up for that, and then you can join the Facebook group and have access to conversations that are going on all the time. Yeah. So, yeah.
Is your mushroom drink, is it like a powder? Is it like, because I've heard of mushroom stuff, but I've never tried it.
Yeah, what I have is a powder. You can get tinctures, but they have alcohol in them, so the flavor is different. But this is a powder that I buy from a supplement company, and then I mix it with, and it's mostly medicinal mushrooms and just a little bit of cacao. But I really am impressed by what I'm reading on the research regarding medicinal mushrooms. It is incredible. And I know that even nutritional oncologists are working with mushrooms to help prevent the reoccurrence of cancer. And the research is just fascinating on brain health, cognitive decline, general, immune response, even reversing HPV. I mean, it is incredible what mushrooms can do.
Because I'm not, it's funny because I'm not a picky eater, but mushrooms is one thing that I've just never loved. But if I could get the benefits from a beverage, what does the beverage, like without the cacao, what is it, a coffee flavor? What flavor is it?
No, it's just actually, what's the flavor? It's a little woodsy. I would say like kind of woodsy. And you might be able to put some vanilla in it and just so whatever sweetener that you're using, if you use any sweetener. Yeah, it's kind of woodsy and it would though remind you of mushrooms, AJ, though. I mean, it would.
Okay.
The cacao masks it nicely and blends with it beautifully. So if you don't do cacao, maybe you could use carob or cinnamon. Oh yeah, I put cinnamon in there too. I just remembered. Yeah.
You could say you're absolutely gorgeous and your skin glows. Is your skin beautiful because of what you eat, or you have some secrets?
Our beauty, all of our beauty is resonating from the inside out. So thank you for that compliment, because it has really been a journey for me to get to this. You should have seen my skin. It was full of acne and cysts. And it was like, I used to have to get it injected. I was on minoxidil, tetracycline. I took Accutane. I mean, it was a mess. And then all the scarring that I had. I mean, it's been such a journey. And yes, I do some things topically, but less is more, I'm finding. And I believe it's a reflection of our internal skin. Our external skin is a reflection of our internal skin. And the more I focus on rebuilding my gut and my biome, the better my skin is looking. And I host a series of talks that are free to attend called Let's Talk Skin, because I love to collaborate with other people on what they're doing for their skin. And it's fascinating. But there are some pillars of how you have and maintain great skin. And a lot of it is about circulation, right? Massage, sweating, brushing, just circulating. And, you got to get the excavate. I call it excavation. It's like we're excavating in ourselves emotionally. We're excavating in ourselves, to make sure we're detoxing enough to stay on top of our disease prevention. We've got to excavate, in ourselves to achieve those levels of freedom and happiness that I so cherish.
I found for me, Jennifer, the biggest difference was staying out of the sun, at least my face. I let everything else get in the sun. But when I moved to the desert from LA, all the doctors were like, because I was always in the sun, and they were like, they said, you don't understand, it's different here, because they just are treating skin cancer. And I don't let my skin on my face go in the sun. And this is what I got now. So I'm happy.
It looks beautiful, Chef AJ. I definitely wear a hat in the sun. Whenever I'm in the sun, I always have a big wide brimmed hat on. And, but I know a lot of you are going to disagree with this. Should I say it? I actually don't wear sunscreen unless I'm in the desert. I was in Joshua Tree about a month ago, rock climbing, and I did wear sunscreen that day.
You visited me. Did we know each other then? I guess not really.
No.
Oh, that's very close to me. It's about 20 minutes away.
The sun is a whole another ballgame where you live. And I did wear sunscreen, natural sunscreen where you live, but I decided to stop wearing sunscreen, and everyone thinks that that's a bad idea, but there's something to it. And I started thinking about it when I read Nadine Artemis's book, Renegade Beauty. And I started to understand some of the importance of sunshine, and also some of the dangers of sunscreen. So I've started to use clothing to help protect my skin, and hats, like an SPF 50 hat. It really works.
Yeah,
it's
and
incredible.
I have a hat that covers my whole face, so I don't need sunscreen. It's like literally, it's just only to see the eyes. It's this color, and I love it. And I got it before COVID. Now everybody thinks it's because of COVID, but no, it's like it's a full coverage hat. It's kind of cool.
That's really interesting. Yeah. But yeah, yeah. But thank you for the compliment. And I'd love to talk skin anytime. Definitely reach out to me, be in contact.
Or you can come back for another episode and just do like a skin seminar if you like.
Yes, we can talk about skin boosting herbs like Shazandra, one of my favorite. If I were going to be a superhero, I think I'd be like Shazandra. I think it's a great name. It's the name of an herb, actually, that's great for your skin and creates natural skin protection from the inside out, sun protection from the inside out. It's an amazing herb.
Well, that would be a great topic.
Yeah.
we have a plant-based dermatologist that comes on regularly, but that would be a great topic. And people are wondering, and if you don't know it, you can tell me. I'll put it in the show notes later. They want the link to your exact beverage, the company that you buy from, and the brand.
Sure. Yeah, I'd be happy to provide that. It's a great idea. And I make the beverage myself, so I'll supply the link for the actual powder for the mushrooms. And then of course I'll have to give you the recipe because I build on it. It's just an ingredient in my recipe, a special ingredient though, for sure.
Great. Well, speaking of recipes, you have two wonderful ones planned for us today. And one of them is sprouted, and you've already mentioned that sprouting is so good. I just started doing that on my birthday this year because I was given a sprouting kit, and it's just amazing how you go to bed and then the next morning things start to grow.
Yeah, it's a great segue. So I want everyone to know how quick, easy, and cheap it is to sprout your own foods. Like here are lentils and mung beans. You see, they're just like, you can get these in your bulk food section. These are just dried beans that you can get anywhere, any grocery store. And then all you do is soak them. You put water in here and you soak them overnight, just like you said, and then you drain them. And there's a couple different ways you can do it. I actually prepared some so you guys could see. You can put it in a jar. So I soaked these overnight and I rinsed them and I put them in this jar. And here you just need one of these screens, or this is a special sprouting lid. And then what you have here, and you can kind of see it, are these little tails that start to grow. And now this food has regained its vitality. So it went from a dry food. In this dry form, it's great for preserving it, right? And now it's completely alive. And that means it can provide vitality. But my favorite way to sprout is actually become this sprouting unit here. There's a crack in one of these, but these guys go so much faster. These are the mung beans completely sprouted. And you guys can save so much money by just doing this at home. Like this probably costs me 50 cents, maybe even less. And so I've got my mung beans and I've got my lentils. And the clay seems to just be a great way to, sprout at home. So I just wanted to show you that how easy it is. It sounds almost too easy to be real, but just like you said, Chef AJ, it's like you just soak them. The next day you strain them and then you rinse them. And you can either put them in a clay sprouter like this, terracotta, or you can, get a jar, just use one of your jars. And you could even put like a screen, like an old screen from, reuse it from your house. You could even put some cloth over here with a rubber band. You don't need a fancy lid. So everybody can bring vitality back into their nuts and seeds and beans by just doing a couple of, just soaking and sprouting, just learning those basic techniques. So I'm going to start with a sprout salad. Now, I know salads aren't really that exciting, but they can be. And I have to say that they are my daily fare. I eat a salad every day, and everyone who knows me makes fun of me because I eat like a massive salad every day. And as a time-saving tip, I basically get all my ingredients out. I make a huge mess, and then I've got my salad ready for 3 days. And I don't just put lettuce in there. Yeah, there's some romaine in here. I have some romaine in here, but I also put like a mesclun green mix, that you get pre-washed at the store, or even some spinach or dandelion or whatever baby lettuces you can find that appeal to you, or at your market. I prefer, of course, to go to the market, but I also put sprouts in here. So I took a half a flat of sunflower seed sprouts. Let's see if we can find, they're kind of chopped up in here, but these are the sunflower seed sprouts, these beautiful guys. And I also put radish sprouts and broccoli sprouts, which you can see in the background that are growing on the countertop. I don't know if you can see them. They're pretty far back here, but they are gorgeous. And these guys are incredible for your health. So these are radish sprouts.
Oh, God,
Aren't they fabulous?
They're beautiful.
And they're so life-giving. So, I grow these guys. I also have a grower that, if I don't have time to grow, will help me out. But, these are in here too. So I made a gigantic salad mix, but guess what? That's kind of boring. All that like green and like, well, I don't know. Well, I do know. And so this is what I do. I shred a carrot because, carrots are just so hard to eat, but I like the texture of shredded carrots. So I shred a carrot, I shred a few radishes. I found purple daikon radishes. How exciting. But the most important thing, here's the biggest secret. You guys ready? Herbs and spring onions, and even maybe some garlic. Some people don't get turned off by that. But anyway, I put that in the food processor. a whole bunch of cilantro, a whole bunch of parsley, and then a whole bunch, not a whole bunch, but maybe, a few green onions, spring onions. And then I blend it. And then I make my gigantic salad mix. And this just lasts me. And it tastes so much better when you add that. And I love spice, so I always add a jalapeno as well. I always add some super spicy spice. And so that's something that, I would love for you guys to take on, to save yourself some time. The more green foods and the more vital foods I can eat, the more vital my skin looks, the more energy I have. I mean, I have a lot of energy. Actually, I have to find like outlets for it. And all the people who take my programs tell me, like, what do I do with all this energy? And I'm like, be creative, right? Do your service, be a better person, a better parent, a better lover, a better, business person. And so a salad is great. And if you can eat it like this, fantastic. Sometimes I'll just throw an avocado on there and that's my dressing, right? But that can be a little intense, right? If you can eat it like this with just some lemon juice, that's delicious too. So if you can keep it simple, some of you will love that. And for those of you who are foodies, I wanted to show you how to make one of my favorite dressings today. So this dressing, I'm not going to use any vinegar or salt, which is kind of shocking. It's like, how do you make a dressing without oil, vinegar, or salt? Like that just seems like out of left field, but it's possible. It's possible to have like a fabulous flavor without those things. And I'm going to show you how. And there's like a magical trinity to get that flavor. And so I'm going to take my very used Vitamix. You can tell I use it all the time because it's so cloudy. I'm basically squeezing a lemon. Thank goodness lemons are still in season. They're still hanging on the trees here. And gosh, I can see the zest. And these lemons are so protective for us, right? They're going to actually rid our bodies of the excess estrogen that we're getting from our environment. Like we're getting that from plastics that we use, excess estrogen we're getting, and that is leading to the increase of cancer in our bodies. So we want to be eating lemons if you can tolerate them as much as possible, because they do help to clear excess estrogen. And they also taste really good, but they're also a great source of phytonutrients. Look at this beautiful color. I'm using my fingers as a sieve just to save dishes. I'm all about convenience because, if the food isn't fun and fast, Chef AJ and everyone who's listening, it's just not going to stick. If it's too much work, it's just not going to stick. But there is a learning curve. And I'm sure that you know this, there is a bit of a learning curve. So you got to learn your new techniques. And you got to do them enough so they feel like they're normal for you. And then, you're set. And so I put a lot of lemon juice in here. It's probably like a half a cup. And then we need a little bit of spice. So I'm going to use a little bit of this jalapeno and put that in there. And I'm going to use a little bit of kelp. Kelp is a seaweed. And I just found this one, so I'm actually really excited about it, right? I found this at a fancy shop in San Francisco, but you don't need a fancy shop. You can get kelp anywhere. You can find it online, but I want to encourage you to use Maine seaweed, or from Iceland. We don't want to be taking seaweed from Japan, just as a tip, and it's really strong. Right. So if you're looking for that fishy flavor, in a plant-based kind of mock tuna, this is a great addition. And, because seaweed has been bathed in mineral-rich waters, you're getting the minerals that you need to rebuild your cells. And this is also part of skin health, is having those minerals. This is also part of cravings. When we crave, we're oftentimes craving because we don't have the minerals that we need. And our soils don't have it, even if you're eating organic food. It is just too expensive. So it's really important that you consider getting seaweed in your life. It's a really random thing for us Americans because we just don't have it in our lives. So I love putting algae and different seaweeds in my food. And this actually also simulates a little bit of salt. Now you got to be really careful because if you use too much, it just will ruin the recipe. So I just use a tiny, tiny, tiny little bit. And then I'm going to add the fat. Right, so we've got the citrus, we've got the salt, we've got the spice, and then I'm going to add a little bit of fat. So I'm always very careful with fat because too much fat makes my weight go up, makes my liver congested, makes me feel tired and sluggish. So I have to be careful, right? Because it also tastes really good. So I have to be careful about the amount of fat I'm eating. But if I'm going to eat fat, and if you're going to eat fat, you're going to definitely want it to be good fat. So here we've got hemp seeds. Hemp seeds are a great source of protein. They're also a fantastic source of fat. They have omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids, and they are so good for you. They contain one of the highest qualities, I think, and Chef AJ, tell me what you think of protein. They have that lutein in it. So they're incredible.
Yeah, I agree with you. We're on the same page about not having too much fat. And, you know, and I think people that have been overweight, I think we don't tolerate fat as well as people that have never been overweight or can't seem to eat as much, is what I mean.
That's interesting. I wonder if it's because we've damaged our livers by overeating.
You know, I don't know. I mean, like, you know, that old nursery rhyme, Jack Sprat could eat no fat, his wife could eat no lean. It's really the opposite. My husband could eat like fat all day and his weight doesn't change. And I mean, I eat one Brazil nut, and like, whoa. So I think people vary in the degree of fat they can eat and remain slim. And I don't think that's why I don't like these one size, like everybody has to eat an ounce of nuts every day. Not everybody can. So, but I like finding what's best, you know, like not painting everyone with the same brush. It's a one size fits most, not a one size fits all.
I agree. Yeah, absolutely. I don't tolerate fat as well as I used to, or I shouldn't say that as well as I used to. I just notice it affects my weight. It affects my energy. And when I eat a lower fat diet, I just feel great. And here, these guys are full of fat. These are pine nuts. Aren't they gorgeous? So gorgeous.
So the pine nuts are so expensive. I remember one time shopping at Costco, I saw an old man stealing the pine nuts. They were $27 at the time. And he literally was opening up the bag and putting them in his pockets.
I mean, this is probably over $20 for this amount of organic pine nuts. I mean, Trader Joe's has a good price here in the US. You know, but I don't use cashews. Cashews make me feel really, really icky. They make me feel actually hungover. And I'm using quite a few of these pine nuts, as you can see. This is basically a pine nut dressing, you know, with some hemp seeds. But this is how you make a cream sauce, a vegan cream sauce. So I don't think as a vegan, we should sacrifice cream, but we do have to be careful. We have to use it sparingly. So I'm just going to blend this up, and then you'll see we're going to have this fabulous cream sauce. I might add some water because I don't really want it to be a dip. I want it to be a dressing. So I'm just going to turn my Vitamix on. It'll be a little loud for a minute. You see. That's how quick it is. And then, oh my goodness, it smells so good. Let me turn this off. And I'm just going to put it on the salad, right? But you see how like completely gorgeous it is. I mean, it's just a fabulous cream sauce. Now that's way too much dressing. I'm just trying to empty my blender out. But basically what you've got is an incredible, incredible cream sauce. Let me just give it a try to see if it needs anything. Yeah, it tastes like sour cream. It tastes identical to sour cream. It's amazing. So again, I'm just using it to, I just put it all in there. I normally wouldn't use this much. You just really want to use a tiny little bit, but I want to empty my blender because I'm going to need it for my soup. So that's what I'm doing there, but I got as much out as I can for now. But that's as simple as it gets for your sprout salad. Of course, you can put cucumbers in here and red peppers, and you can put all kinds of other stuff. You can put roasted radishes in here, or asparagus, or anything else that you want, whatever steamed, roasted, raw vegetables you want to put in the salad. There's no end to the possibilities, but I just wanted to share my base with you. And to let you know, it can be grab and go. A lot of people say, well, I don't have time. Oh, I can't do this. It's so expensive. I disagree. And I don't buy it, because our health is the most important thing. Without it, we've got nothing. So we've got to get on the same page with our bodies. And the money and time it takes can be reduced substantially with habit, like creating new habit of just showing up for yourself and making sure you're buying ingredients. Because here's my formula, Chef AJ and everyone. You got to be eating food that brings you energy, not takes energy away from you. So for me, eating a high-fat diet takes energy away from me. Eating a high-sugar diet takes energy away from me. It puts me on a roller coaster of emotions. You know, so I am always thinking about how can I be putting food into my body that brings me vitality. And so that's what I'm always thinking about. And so that's why I wanted to share these sprouts with you guys, because these are vital. I brought the vitality back. And so can you when you soak and sprout it. Listen, if you don't get the chance to eat these raw, just throw them in a soup. They'll be really easy to digest. And you can, there's a lot of, as I showed you, you've got the sprouts in the jar, the terracotta jar, and then you also have the sprouts in the tray. So there are different ways to grow sprouts and different types of seeds. So I'm going to move on now. Chef AJ, just a time check. How much time do we have left?
I got it. You have till 2 p.m. You have a couple hours if you need it. I just, no, there's no.
Great. Well, I was just checking.
Thank you.
So I'm going to make yeah. Well, I wanted to make an asparagus soup. It is it's asparagus season right now. And I love soup. I don't know if you eat soup, Chef JJ, but I really love soup.
I have an Instant Pot and I make soup all the time. Do you have an Instant Pot?
I don't. I have a pressure cooker, like an old school one from Switzerland. Actually, I didn't even bring my clothes or my books with me, but I did bring my pressure cooker. This is actually the base of it. And I've had it repaired. I had to send it in and they were like, what happened to your pot? I mean, I've used this thing so much, but I hear great things about the Instant Pot, which is similar to a pressure cooker, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It is an electric pressure cooker. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm also artichokes growing outside in my garden. So I have been having artichoke parties with myself. I've been eating like 3 or 4 artichokes at a time, and it's like so decadent. It's so fun. But I love to eat food in season, and I think that's another tip I'd love to share with all of you that you all know, I'm sure. But eating food in season that's ripe is really important. Like sometimes I'll eat tomatoes, but like, guess what? They're not in season right now. I mean, why would I eat them? So because they taste good and I want them and so on and so forth. I get it. But the asparagus. So I'm making this asparagus soup because I love it. So I've heated up my pan. I don't think it's in the screen so much anymore, but I'm not sure that's even important. So we're not going to use any oil in this recipe. Usually a soup base would have, oil to saute this shallot. If you don't have a shallot, you could use an onion. If you don't have an onion, you can use a leek. If you don't have either, you can use some onion powder. Don't let not having the ingredients ever stop you from being creative and finding solutions. But I just wanted to have a little bit of onion in this soup. Do you eat onion, Chef AJ? Some people are not doing onions these days.
Do I eat onion? I have a saying, everything starts with an onion, especially because I don't eat salt. I just don't know how to make food taste good without onion and garlic.
I'm right there with you. But there are certain people in my life who don't eat onions. And so, I've really it's really challenged my creativity to find other ways of finding flavor. So I have a little bit of broth here that I've prepared. And I'm just going to use a little bit of broth in my pan just to kind of steam fry the onion. So yeah, look, it's already kind of steaming up there. And I'm going to just place the onion in there just to get the onion a little bit softened, just to kind of bring out the sweetness of the onion. I really like leeks this time of year as well. I didn't grab one because most people, I really want to make it accessible. It's really important for me that everyone feels like I can do this. And I think everyone can find an onion, right? Maybe not a shallot or a leek, but everyone can find an onion. So you just want to start off with a little bit of onion. This is a whole bunch of asparagus. Right now, it's also a good price. When we think about how we save money being healthy, eating in season is another way to do that. It is so easy to save money by, buying food in season. And buying food in bulk, and then finding bulk producers that also will offer you discounts, when you buy a case of this or, a few pounds of that. And then if you just learn about those storage techniques, you should be good to go. Really important. So I don't know about you, Chef AJ, but I love this creamy flavor. Are you a fan of the cream, even as a plant-based eater?
I love all textures, creamy, crunchy, you name it.
Yeah, me too. And I think that it has something to do with our emotions. And I don't have any research on that, but I love creamy, and I'm not willing to sacrifice flavor or fun or even convenience for my health. Knowing that health is the most important thing to me, because I can't be a great mom. I can't be a great entrepreneur. I can't support and mentor my students and run my programs, without it. And my energy level is determined by my thoughts, what I do with my body, and what I put into my body. I'm going to say it again. My energy is determined by what I do with my body, what I put into my body, and what was the third thing I said? What I do with my body, what I put into my body.
I'm trying, I just heard it and I don't remember. Guys, what did she say? Because I was actually looking something else you said, which is our daily practice is our strongest medicine. That's something you say.
That is something I say. I find it to be the most important thing, actually, because we're all practicing something. We can be practicing unhealthy habits, and we're going to be getting the results that those unhealthy habits promote in our lives. Or we can be practicing habits that are contributing to our health. And I don't mean just exercising and eating clean food. I mean, you know, also how we're interacting with ourselves, that inner dialogue. That's also part of vitality, is that inner dialogue. What are we saying to ourselves? Are we beating ourselves up? Are we having a healthy dialogue with ourselves? You know, this has been a big theme for me and my clients lately. You know, what are you saying to yourself? And a lot of us are just beating ourselves up because we think that's the way we move ourselves forward. But I disagree. I don't think that that's the way we move forward. So I'm going to add a little bit of fresh thyme from the garden. You could use oregano. I really love dill in this recipe as well. This is some beautiful thyme. Whatever herb you have, marjoram is also nice. Tarragon is also beautiful. So, you know, you can really use whatever aromatic herbs you have. I haven't chosen kind of Middle Eastern spices for this, but that might be good. Or you could even take it in a different direction. Whatever spices you are in the mood for. But I tend to like tarragon, marjoram, thyme, and what was the other one? Tarragon, marjoram, thyme, and dill.
Dill.
I love oregano too.
People are saying the third thing was thoughts, what you tell your body. Was that your third thing?
That's it. Thank you. Glad you guys are listening.
They're great. And also everybody's asking about your clay pots. If you can also, when you give the link to the mushroom beverage, if you can also tell us where we get those, and I can add them to the show notes. The recipes are in the show notes now, but I can add those later.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And while you were talking, I added a few sprinkles of chili powder. You could use red chili flakes. These are chipotle chili flakes, but you don't have to get fancy. And as you notice, I keep adding a little bit. Like I notice when it's getting dry, and I'm just adding a little bit of broth. If you don't have broth, don't worry about it. Use water. And I'm using a warm beverage. It actually speeds up the cooking process. And then I'm going to add the asparagus. My onion is extremely soft. And I wish you guys were here so you could smell the aroma right now, because it is like divine. I can smell the smoky chipotle chili. I can smell the aromatic thyme. I mean, it is just beautiful. And so I'm going to add the asparagus, and I'm going to stir it around a little bit. You know, just to get it coated. Go ahead.
Like you, I like to add jalapeno to my salad too. And I noticed sometimes they were going bad because I wasn't eating them fast enough. So I found something called jalapeno powder at local spicery. And I always add that to my salad. It just balances this, I don't know, just good.
I love it. I love that little kick. That's a good idea to add this powder. And that's true. And that kind of forces me to eat more salad because I know it's going to go bad. And I'm such a frugal chef. I am not willing to let my food spoil on me. So, I'm pretty like vigilant with myself about it. So I've just added the stock because I coated the asparagus really nicely with it. I'm just adding the stock. Now, this is a basic soup base, you know, this is not complicated. And one of my weight loss hacks is that eating soup for dinner. It's so satisfying. It's so filling. And I just love the way it makes me feel in the morning, because you know how you're doing with your health based on how you feel first thing in the morning. If you're feeling groggy, if you're feeling cranky, if you're feeling inflamed, if you have excess, crust in your eyes, you always know that something needs fine tuning. So you have to excuse me. I'm going to grab the top because you reminded me of an Instapot. I'm going to use the good old fashioned pressure cooker here. And that'll speed things up for our soup. You don't have to get fancy. What I'm showing you today in this soup, you can do with pretty much anything, right? You could use broccoli, you could use cauliflower, you could use squash, you could use any other vegetable you've got in your fridge. I'd love to do a what's in your fridge challenge. It's like, because that's the bottom line, guys, isn't it? You open your fridge and you're like, what do I have? What am I going to do with it? And it is so much fun actually to create. And just, using a soup or even a chickpea quiche, which is like I used to use egg quiches, but now I use chickpea quiche. That's also another great way to use up whatever you have in your fridge. But a soup is another excellent way to use up whatever you have in the fridge. I tend to like to eat soups fresh, or I will freeze them just after I make them. I'm not one of those people. I find the vitality in the food, which is kind of counterintuitive, but I find that the vitality in the food really diminishes when I store it in the refrigerator for 2 or 3 days. I love to eat food right when it's fresh. There's just something about it. And so we're going to cook this in the pressure cooker. It hasn't gained pressure. And I just remembered that I wanted to add a little bit of oats. This is actually what causes the creaminess. I just have some rolled oats here. You could use some cooked quinoa if you wanted to. You could add something else, but I just like this, and you don't need much. I'm only going to use like a tablespoon or two, really not much at all. And I'm going to cook that with the soup, like as I'm going to pressure cook it here as soon as it comes to pressure. And that helps me to use less nut milk to create that creaminess. That's a little fat saving tip. If you like garlic, you can also add a little bit of garlic to this. It's a delicious idea. But of course, the secret's always in the stock. And of course, the amount of spices and herbs you use, because you can make a really bland soup that you're like, oh my gosh, what did I make here? I need to throw it away. So you want to have your components right, in terms of which vegetables. It's also really delicious if you have some leftover roasted vegetables to make a soup. So soups are a great weight loss saving hack. They're so satisfying for dinner. And it really helps me and all of my clients lose weight at an accelerated rate with the satisfaction and the flavor that we all want.
Nice.
So it's just coming to pressure here. I would love to answer any questions that anybody has or any of your questions.
Well, just they wanted the links to the things. Do you guys have any questions? I mean, I love your whole skin, class that tell us about, how do you want people to connect with you? Do you offer classes to lay people, or is it like programs, or
of course.
Do you follow you on Instagram? Or I have everything you gave me is in the show notes, but I always like to ask people where they hang out.
So I have this free 7-day lifestyle plan that gives you some innovative ideas for vital foods that you can make in your own kitchen. And a lot of them are probably very new for some of you, and different things you can make with, nuts and seeds and greens and some delicious recipes. So if you go to my website, jennifer-helene.com, you can sign up for the 7-day free lifestyle plan. And when it gets delivered to you, you'll be given an option to join the private Facebook group, in which we have a great conversation going on, and where you can share your ideas and your recipes, and where I answer questions and we can interact there. You can also email me directly on the contact page of my website. You can find out more about, my journey and what I do. But, just ask me questions. I'm constantly all day long interacting with students and answering questions. I do a lot of different things, but food is really my passion. As you can tell, I'm just really, really excited about it and really into it. So it's really my fun. So I blog about it. There are recipes on my blog. And on my Facebook, I'm constantly, posting pictures of what I'm eating and what I'm doing with food. Lately, I've been on a buckwheat flaxseed pizza crust kick. For low fat, low inflammation pizza enjoyment. And it's been a big hit. I've been testing it on all different types of crowds. That's been really, really fun. So I'll be doing more with that. And then I have some new projects coming up that are pretty exciting, community gathering. But my website is just being updated all the time. So if you just stay in touch with me, then I can, let you know kind of as those updates emerge. And I also, of course, this Hippocrates program you can find on their website. It's the Culinary Institute. You can always just email me and I can get you more information about that. And that's a $397 program. And it teaches you the basics of the Hippocrates diet. And I've created a lot of those recipes. And then there's a really beautiful, almost 100-page book at the end that consolidates everything. But when we teach you really step by step about all of the components of the Hippocrates diet, because we don't use dates, we don't use agave syrup, we don't use cashews, we don't use peanuts, we don't use salt, we don't use vinegar. So these are some core components that differentiate us, as well as having a physical campus for over 60 years and a proven lifestyle medicine protocol that works. It is, I've never seen so many miracles. I have literally lost count of all of the miracles that I've witnessed over the time that I've been involved with them, which now is over 10 years. It's pretty extraordinary.
Do they have a chef there that works there full time?
Oh yeah, Chef Ken. He's in the program. And boy, does he work hard. I mean, he really is an extraordinary person with his work ethic. I've never seen anything quite like it before. But yeah, he makes some amazing things. He makes these Thai dishes and Mexican dishes, and he's very creative with different pates and crackers and pizzas. And he has, yeah, and he's really into Tai Chi, so he's really Zen, and he's just so much fun to be around. He's really a character. He's been there for I think 14 years, long time.
Maybe you could introduce us, and I'd love
Yes,
to. Now this is interesting because you're saying no vinegar, and one of the things every guest on the show gets if they live in the United States the first time are 2 free bottles of vinegar. So I'm guessing you probably don't want it.
I use vinegar from time to time in my cuisine. Vinegar has been used for a long time in a lot of cultures. And so I'm also a student of historical nutritional healing. So when I lived in Europe, a lot of what I was doing was studying food as medicine with the grandmothers in Greece, in Switzerland, in France, in Germany, because I speak fluent French and German. And also when we were traveling, because I was in the fashion industry, we were traveling throughout Asia and the Middle East. I was also observing how the grandmothers were treating and healing their grandchildren. And there were a lot of commonalities, Chef AJ. I know food can heal, and I've seen it now time and time again. My mother even lost her vision and regained it with a macrobiotic diet. I mean, it was just shocking. I also got nodes and almost lost my voice, did some Chinese herbs in New York City, and my voice came back and the nodes disappeared. I know food can heal. There's no doubt in my mind at this point that food has tremendous healing capacity if we know the components. And so in my travels, I mean, a lot of the ways these cultures were preserving their foods, was through vinegar. Now, I've heard that, it's also a weed killer, right? If you spray vinegar on weeds, it's a weed killer. So when I can, I use lemons. But Chef AJ, lemons are not in season year round. And if I want that acid element to my food, I'm going to use a healthy vinegar. Right. Now, those of you who know Hippocrates are going to say, well, that's a bad thing. You shouldn't do that. It's not good for your digestion. But, I am really committed to eating food in season.
Right. Well, it's just, some of my friends and colleagues like Dr. Michael Greger recommends 2 tablespoons of balsamic vinegar a day for a myriad of reasons. And Dr. Esselstyn, Prevent and Reverse Heart Disease, recommends that when it helps increase the nitric oxide in the greens. So I think, I think people have to condiment responsibly. If they're drinking a whole bottle a day, it's probably not good, but it depends. But that's just, this is, other than with Seventh-day Adventists, I've really never heard the no vinegar idea before too much. So I was just curious. And people are asking what's wrong with dates. I mean, I've written a whole book about dates called A Date with Dessert. So I personally don't eat them. I mean, like as a food, but I do use them as my sweetener if I'm going to use a sweetener, which I don't. I eat more savory now though than sweet.
Yeah, I mean, we use them. Sorry about that. We use them on occasion.
If it's a dog,
I'm not going to say.
If
I have my dog. Sorry.
Dogs are welcome on the show if he or she would like to say hello.
Lulu, come. She's very excited. She's protecting the house right now. Come on, Lulu. She's coming over here. Come on. You want to come? Here she. She's very excited about the animal. There she is. She's over there. There's Lulu. Yeah, she's a sweetie. She's my girl. You can probably hear we reached pressure over here on the pressure cooker, so that's a good sign. I think that I like how you said condiment intelligently, because we have to also be asking ourselves what we know intellectually and what we know from our somatic intelligence, from our felt sense. And I don't mean our felt sense of addiction or our felt sense of masking our emotions with food. But I mean our felt sense of how food actually makes us feel. Like I know if I eat a gluten-free pizza crust made with tapioca starch, brown rice flour, and cassava flour, for example, I'm not going to feel the same way I do when I eat my buckwheat pizza crust made with whole buckwheat that's freshly ground. It's a completely different after effect. Intellectually, I know that they're both gluten-free, but my felt sense the next day is totally worlds apart. Right. So when we talk about vinegar or not vinegar, dates or no dates, it's like, how do you feel? Like I do eat dates too. I ate a dessert a few days ago that was sweetened with dates, and I think dates are an excellent replacement for sugar, and they have so many healing benefits. And so it's just about moderation for me, because if I eat too many dates, I will start putting the weight back on. So I do. It is a whole food. It is a dried fruit. I try to get them fresh when I can, because where I live, where you live, we can get them fresh, which is amazing. So sometimes, this is what my sister taught me, where you can blend them and then freeze them in little cubes, and then use them in your, bean brownies, or your, cupcakes, or whatever it is you're making throughout the year. So you have the fresh fruit frozen, which I prefer over the dried fruit when we're talking dates. But I think, like you said, it's about moderation. And I do use vinegar, and there are some health benefits that are proven from vinegar. So I'm not necessarily against vinegar, and everyone has their different protocols. And the more I know about food, the more I realize I have to learn. And the more I know about food, the more I want to become more of an Intuitarian. I
Right.
want to be able to intuit what my body needs. And
I like
that's
that.
challenging.
I've never heard that, an Intuitarian. That is amazing.
I want to know what my body needs. And sometimes it's hard to distinguish between like an emotional need and an actual physical need. And that's the tricky part. And that's been a big part of my learning for my own, overcoming, a lot of the obstacles that I've had to overcome with my relationship with food and my body.
Right. Well, but there are places, other healing centers like True North, that uses vinegar, and people have overcome cancer and things like that too. So I think we're just wondering why Hippocrates doesn't use dates, vinegar, and I believe you said cashews. Those were three things.
Yeah. Well, cashews, I think are they're high in fat, but so are pine nuts. But apparently they're just not really raw cashews because of the way they're extracted. And I just feel hungover when I eat them. I know that from my own personal felt sense. Vinegar, they say, impairs digestion. So I don't know if that's true or not either, but they say when you optimize digestion, then you can optimize healing. So if you make your digestion really super simple and easy with proper food combining, and certain things, but that includes salt and vinegar, apparently, change your ability or impair your ability to digest food. So they suggest that you just, leave those two things out, mineralize yourself with the sea vegetables instead for salt, lemon juice for vinegar. And then, they feel like that's worked for them over the last, few decades or several decades. But, like you said, I mean, I think everyone needs to find out what is right for them. So I'm going to go ahead and bring this pressure down. I'm going to bring this over to the sink and just pour some water on it, but I can still hear you and speak with you. I'm just going to do that real quick over here. This is the quick release, which you probably don't have to do in an Instapot, right?
I don't think so, but I could tell that it came up to pressure I could hear it.
Yeah, and then I can also smell that the asparagus is done. And in just a second, the pressure will be released. I didn't expect to use my pressure cooker today, but it certainly speeds things up. Now, I don't know what I'd do without my pressure cooker, and I use it for just about everything. Well, that's not true, because I don't cook food a lot, but I use it for the artichokes right now. I'm making a lot of artichokes these days. So I'm just going to give this a quick rinse so that I'm not mixing my my dressing in with my soup, although it probably would be delicious. But I want to stick to my almond milk and my, it's not perfectly clean, so please excuse me on that. And then I'm just going to add these cooked vegetables. And then I'm going to add a little bit of almond milk. I didn't cook the almond milk because it will curdle. Raw homemade almond milk will curdle when you cook it. So I'm just going to add a little bit for the creaminess. So you saw just maybe a quarter of a cup, maybe half a cup. And then I already have spice in there. I don't really need to add anything else. I'm just going to blend this now. This is done. There we go. I'm just going to make a beautiful creamy soup. Let's see how it tastes. I mean, that's how fast it was. I don't even know how fast that was, but that was pretty fast, right? It was like a 10 or 15 minute soup. I mean, it doesn't take a long time. So I'm just gonna, it smells really savory. I put my spoon over here. I'm just gonna sip it. It doesn't need a thing. It's fabulous. And that's so simple, guys. Did you see that? So you could have your meal in under 20 minutes. not cleaned up, maybe 25 minutes with a cleanup. But that's how simple it can be. Asparagus, a shallot or an onion, a little bit of broth, and it's super, super creamy, right? So I don't know if you guys can see that well enough, but it's really creamy. And then you could add a little bit of thyme on top, some fresh thyme, or even some extra nut milk if you want, but it doesn't need it. It's very rich and creamy, and it's because of the oats that create that creaminess.
Okay.
So it can be fast, and it can be easy, it can be fun, and it can be, and should be, and must be delicious.
Well, you are delightful and your recipes look delicious. So thank you so much.
It's my pleasure. I'm going to come around because I just love this. I love sharing these ideas with you and with your community because I want you all to cook at home and find joy in getting healthy and to release the vitality inside of you, because that's so important for your relationships, for your work, for your children, for your neighbors, for your peace. It's just so important. Anyway, I just am so excited to share. And in any way, honestly, Chef AJ, the hardest part of being on your show today was like, oh my gosh, which recipe do I want to do? Because there's so much I want to share.
Well, you can come back in the fall and share some other ones.
I'd love to. I'm going to perfect this pizza thing. I'm telling you, I'm getting very close. I can't believe how great the texture is. It is so exciting. So yeah, thank you.
Well, we would love to see a pizza. Well, thank you, Jennifer. It was delightful getting to know you. Your recipes look delicious. And thanks all of you for watching another episode of Chef AJ Live. We have a bonus show today at 2 p.m. I hope you'll come back when we're going to be talking about all things microbiome with UCLA's Dr. Emran Mayan, who has a new book coming out called The Gut Immune Connection. And you had mentioned when you improved your gut, your skin improved.
Everything, your mood, your skin, your immune system. It is the foundation of your health. And we know so little about it. So I don't know if I'll be able to join today, but hopefully I can catch the episode a little later because it is so important. And the more I learn about it, I mean, it is mind blowing. So I hope everyone can enjoy that. I know I will.
Well, great. Thank you so much, Jennifer.
Be well.
Take care. Bye-bye.